Hi and welcome to HR Sigma Path. So before we compare AWS Network Firewall, Network ACL and Security Group, let us first understand what is this diagram is trying to teach us.
So, Venn diagram is one of the simplest way to compare multiple concepts. So, instead of looking at these separate lists, we can instantly see what features are unique to each services and which capabilities they share. By the end of this explanation, you will now not only understand each services individually, but also know exactly where they overlap and when to use each one. So we'll start with this explanation.
At the very top, notice the title AWS Network Firewall versus Network ACL versus Security Group. So the diagram says three layers of defense here. Different scopes, different strength work together. So this single sentence is actually the main takeaway of the entire diagram. And it tells us that AWS does not expect you to choose only one of these security controls. Instead, each one protects your network at a different level, has its own strength, and together they provide the multiple layer of security. Now look at the three large circles here. Each circle represents one AWS network security service. So the red circle here represents the AWS network firewall and the green circle represents the network ACN, also called as NACL, and the blue circle here represents the security group. So the size of these circle does not indicate which service is more powerful. Instead, the diagram uses overlapping circles to show where these services have unique responsibilities and where they share the common capabilities. So before we even enter in these circles, notice the boxes on the left. The first box explains the purpose of AWS Network Firewall. It says its job is advanced threat protection and traffic inspection for the entire VPC. So this means it does not just allow or block traffic. It can actually inspect network traffic and identifies the suspicious or the malicious activity. So further down under another box describes here network ACL as a subnet gate that checks the packets entering and leaving the subnet. Imagine the entrance gate of a residential community. Everyone entering or leaving must pass through this gate. Okay, so that is exactly how network ACL protect the AWS subnet. So now let's move into this first circle, which is AWS Network Firewall, and it protects your entire VPC or the selected subnet. And its scope is much larger than the individual resources. Notice that it operates from OSI layer 3 all the way to layer 7. So this means it understands not only IP addresses and ports but also application level traffic. So this diagram also tells us that it is stateful. So being stateful means it remembers ongoing network conversation. So the return traffic is automatically recognized without creating the separate rule. Now look at the list beside the firewall here. So these are the advanced security capabilities that makes network firewall different. And it supports the deep packet inspection which examines the content of a packets. And it provides the IDS and IPS, meaning it can detect and even prevent the attacks. And it performs URL and domain filtering to block the unwanted websites. It supports TLS inspection, allowing the encrypted traffic to be inspected safely. So it also provides application awareness at layer 7, understanding applications rather than just IP addresses. So finally, unlikely security groups, it supports both allow rules and deny rules, giving administrators much finer control over it. Let's explore the green circle representing network ACL. Its scope is the subnet, meaning every resource inside the subnet follows the same rule. It operates only at OSI layer 3 and 4. So it filters traffic based on IP addresses, protocols, and ports. Unlike network firewall, network ACL is stateless. This means if you allow incoming traffic, you must also create another rule allowing the return traffic. So the diagram also shows the network ACL supports both allow rules and deny rules. Uses rule numbering to decide evaluation order and automatically applies to every resource inside the subnet. Now let's move to the blue circle, which is security groups. It protects individual AWS resources instead of the entire subnet. So these resources include EC2 instances, load balancers, RDS databases, and other services with the elastic network interfaces. Like security groups operate at OSI level or layer 3 and 4. However, they are stateful, so return traffic is automatically allowed. Notice another important difference. Security group supports only allow rules. Anything not explicitly allowed is automatically denied, making them simple and secure by default. So the overlapping sections here, now notice where the circle overlap. So these overlapping areas represent the capabilities shared between the two services. For example, network firewall and network ACL both supports allow rules, deny rules, and the layer 3 and layer 4 filtering. So network firewall and security groups, they both support allow rules, stateful connection, and layer 3 and layer 4 filtering. So these shared areas helps us understand why the service sometimes appears similar even though they protect different parts of the AWS network. So finally, let's look at the very center here, where all three circles overlap. So this section lists the capabilities common to all three security controls. All of them control the network traffic. All can filter traffic using IP addresses. All can filter the based on port numbers. All supports ingress and egress rules, meaning they control both incoming and outgoing traffic, and all contribute to improving the overall security of your AWS environment. Even though they work differently, they all share these fundamental networking responsibilities. At the bottom, the diagram explains where each service is most helpful. Okay, so network ACL is ideal for blocking IP ranges at the subnet level, adding an extra security layer, and meeting compliance requirements. And security groups are the best for protecting individual resources and are easier to manage and automatically deny any traffic that is not explicitly allowed. And in the center, the diagram shows the recommended traffic flow. Traffic enters from the internet, passes through the AWS network firewall, then network ACL, then security group before finally reaching your application. So this layered approach is known as defense in depth, where multiple security controls work together instead of relying on just one. So the final note reminds us of one of the most important AWS interview question also, that network ACL is stateless, so you must create rules for both incoming and outgoing traffic. Security groups and AWS network firewalls are stateful, meaning return traffic is automatically allowed. If you remember just these differences along with the scope of each services, you will understand why AWS provides all three security controls instead of only one.